The Boeing 787 descended into JFK with the heavy thud of a woman coming home to face the truth. 12 hours from Frankfurt. 12 hours of staring out the window at clouds while my mind replayed every compromise I'd made, every decision I'd justified, every time I told myself, he'll grow into the role. My name is Catherine Hayes. I'm 32 years old and the majority shareholder of Apex Medical Group, a hospital system worth $1.2 billion that my father built from nothing. I wasn't supposed to be the voice of the company. I was supposed to be the invisible spine. That was the arrangement when I married Mark Thompson 5 years ago. He got the title of CEO, the prestige, the interviews, the awards with his name on them. And I got to watch from 3,000 miles away while he ran my father's legacy into the ground. The trip to Germany was supposed to be routine. Negotiate equipment purchases. Finalize supplier contracts. Simple enough that Mark suggested I take the lead to stay sharp. What I found instead was incompetence. The German manufacturers didn't want to negotiate with Mark. They wanted to negotiate with me. They knew my name from my father's era. They trusted my judgment. So I spent 1 month doing Mark's job while he stayed in New York, attending galas and giving speeches about visionary leadership. By the time I landed at JFK, I'd already decided something had to change. I didn't go home first. I went straight to the hospital. The lobby. Apex University Hospital rose from the Upper East Side like a monument to my father's ambition. 20 stories of blue-tinted glass reflecting the afternoon sun. The crown jewel of New York's healthcare system. I took a car service directly to the main entrance and walked through the front doors at 2:47 p.m. The lobby was its usual chaos of life and death, families with worried faces, nurses moving with purpose, the faint smell of antiseptic and hope. I wasn't trying to be unobserved. I wasn't performing some undercover inspection. I just wanted to see the hospital the way a patient would. Not through filter reports and carefully prepared presentations. I stood near the reception desk, pulling my suitcase behind me, still in the clothes I'd worn on the plane. Navy suit, minimal jewelry, tired face. A woman my age was standing near the revolving doors, phone in hand, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I don't care about the schedule," she was saying to someone. "My husband is the CEO. Find me a spot. I have a meeting at 4, and I'm not sitting in traffic because you're incompetent." She was maybe 5'3" in heels, blonde hair that looked professionally blown out, a dress that belonged in a nightclub, not a hospital. She turned and nearly collided with Henry, our parking valet, a Vietnam veteran who'd worked here since my father's time. "You," she snapped. "I parked in a lot 20 minutes ago. Go get my car." Henry flinched. "Of course, miss. Which car is it?" "The Mercedes. The new one. And don't scratch it this time." I watched her walk past him, without waiting for a response. She was already recording something on her phone, angling it at her face. "Hey, everyone, your girl Tiff is at the hospital again because apparently healthcare is boring without drama," she chirped into the camera. "My hubby's the CEO, so I basically run this place. If anyone wants a job or needs a favor, just ask for Tiffany Jones." Henry caught my eye. There was embarrassment there and something else. Confusion. I knew that look. It was the look of someone trying to understand how the world had changed without their permission. The conversation. I approached her as she was setting down her phone. "I'm sorry," I said. "Are you an employee here?" She looked at me like I'd asked if she was a rocket scientist. "No, I'm a visitor." "Obviously. What? Do I look like I work here?" "You have a hospital ID," I pointed out. "Around your neck." She glanced down at the intern badge as if she'd forgotten about it.
"Oh, that."
"I'm interning. My husband pulled some strings. It's just a formality, so I can tell people I work in healthcare. I'm trying to build my brand, you know? Everyone on TikTok has a real job now." I felt something tighten in my chest. "What's your name?" "Tiffany Jones. My husband is Mark Thompson, the CEO of this hospital. And you are?" I didn't answer immediately. I was processing the way she said his name, the ownership in her voice, the assumption that everyone would know who she was by association. "Catherine Hayes. I said finally. Chief Strategy Officer. Her expression didn't change. She either didn't recognize the name or didn't care.
Oh.
Well, Catherine, no offense, but you look like you could use a makeover. That suit is corporate?
Boring?
Anyway, I have to meet my husband upstairs. He's in a really important meeting, so if you see him, tell him I'm here. She walked toward the elevator bank without waiting for a response. Henry approached me carefully. Madam Hayes, I apologize. I didn't realize you were back. Welcome home. That was Mrs. Thompson? Yes, madam. She started coming around about 3 months ago. At first, Mr. Thompson told the staff she was a consultant. Then, an intern. Now He trailed off, but I understood. Now she was whatever she wanted to be, because no one had the authority to tell her otherwise. Henry, go rest. Don't worry about her car. Yes, madam. I stood in the lobby, my suitcase still in hand, and felt the full weight of what I'd been trying not to think about during the flight. Mark hadn't just been unfaithful. He'd been building a second life right here in my father's hospital, in front of everyone, with no attempt at discretion. The discovery. I took the private elevator to the executive floor. My office was exactly as I'd left it. The desk clear. The view of the Hudson River unchanged. The photos on the wall showing me with my father, me in medical school, me and Mark at our wedding. I sat down and opened my laptop. Then I made phone calls I should have made months ago. The first was to our IT director. I need a complete access report for the past 3 months. Who's been in the executive areas? What files have been accessed? Everything. The second was to our CFO. I need a full accounting of Mark's expense reports, travel, purchases, anything unusual. The third was to our HR department. I need the file for any recent interns or new hires, specifically anyone with the last name Thompson, Jones, or anything connected to the CEO's personal circle. Each call was made in the same calm, measured voice. The voice of someone who's already made her decision and is just gathering the evidence to support it. The reports came back within 2 hours. Tiffany Jones had been added to the payroll as an intern 6 weeks ago. No formal application process. No background check. Listed under special projects with a salary of $32,000 per year. Her access card had been used to enter the executive suite at least 30 times in the past month, mostly during hours when most staff had left for the day. Mark's expense reports showed 3 stays at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, charged to the hospital's conference account, all in the past 2 months. The IT report showed that someone had been accessing Mark's encrypted files from my office computer, the same office where Tiffany had posed for photos. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was systematic, calculated deception. And it meant I had a choice to make. I found Mark in the boardroom on the 4th floor, exactly where his calendar said he'd be. A quarterly meeting with the department heads. He was mid-sentence when I opened the door. And that's why we need to prioritize efficiency over expansion. We can't afford to grow if it means compromising our... He saw me and stopped. His face did something interesting. A flash of genuine surprise, followed by something that looked like fear, quickly covered with a smile. Catherine, you're back early. I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow.
We need to talk, I said.
Privately. His smile faltered. He looked around the table at the department heads, all of whom were suddenly very interested in their coffee cups. Of course. Gentlemen, let's reconvene in an hour. They filed out quickly. Nobody wanted to be in the room when the chairwoman was angry. I closed the door and sat down across from him instead of beside him. Who is Tiffany Jones? His face went very still. I don't lie. I know everything. The intern placement, the hotel stays, the access card, the Mandarin Oriental. I know. He stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. It's not what you think, he said quietly. Then tell me what it is. She means nothing. She's a distraction. A moment of weakness. I was stressed about the Singapore deal, and you put her on payroll. I was going to fix that. I just needed. You gave her hospital property access. She was just spending time here to understand the medical field better, and I didn't want her sitting in the waiting room. Mark. He turned to face me. Look at me and tell me the truth. All of it. He sat back down. The performance was over. What remained was just exhaustion and resignation. I met her at a charity event in the Hamptons. She was there with a friend. We talked. It was harmless at first, just conversation. But then she started texting. She was interested in the hospital, interested in healthcare. I thought I could help her career. You thought you could use her to make yourself feel important. He flinched. You've been feeling inadequate in this role since day one. I continued. So, you found someone who thinks you're impressive. Someone young enough that she doesn't know better. Someone you could impress without actually having to be competent. That's not. It is. And now you've compromised the hospital's hiring practices, given an unvetted intern access to sensitive areas, and done it all on hospital time and hospital money. I pulled out my phone and showed him the reports I'd compiled. His face went the color of old paper. What are you going to do? He asked. I don't know yet. And that was true, because I discovered something in the past few hours that changed everything. The Mandarin Oriental stays, the intern placement, the access cards. They were recent, but the real problem was older. When I dug deeper into the expense reports, I found something else. Offshore accounts, wire transfers, payments to companies that didn't exist. Mark hadn't just been unfaithful. He'd been stealing from the hospital. I didn't fire Mark that day. Instead, I did something far more strategic. I waited. I compiled evidence. I brought in forensic accountants. I hired a divorce attorney without telling him. I documented every lie, every theft, every moment of deception. I also waited to see what he would do when he realized I knew. What he did was panic. Within 48 hours, he'd moved money into different accounts, liquidated certain investments, tried to hide the evidence, which, of course, only created more evidence. By the time I was ready to move, I had enough documentation to not just fire him from his position, but ensure he faced federal charges. But I didn't move immediately. I wanted him to think he was winning. I wanted him to feel safe enough to make more mistakes. Because the best way to defeat someone isn't to confront them when they're prepared. It's to let them prepare for the wrong fight. 3 weeks after I returned from Germany, I called a meeting. Not with Mark. With the board of directors. I presented the evidence methodically. The offshore accounts. The stolen funds. The unauthorized hiring. The security breaches. The board members listened in silence. When I finished, the chairman of the board, an old friend of my father's, leaned back in his chair. How much total? $4.2 million over the past 18 months, I said. That's the minimum. There may be more once the forensic audit is complete. And you're certain about this? I'm certain. Catherine, if this becomes public, it will devastate the hospital's reputation. Maybe irreparably. Yes, I agreed. But covering it up would be worse. My father built this hospital on integrity. We're not going to destroy that legacy to protect a man who is never worthy of it. The board voted unanimously to terminate Mark Thompson, effective immediately, pending a criminal investigation. By the time Mark found out through a phone call from his attorney, the decision had already been made. I didn't immediately address Tiffany, but I did something more effective. I had her fired through the proper channels. Not by me, by HR. For failure to meet internship requirements and violation of hospital conduct policies. She was escorted out by security. No drama. No scene. Just the quiet removal of someone who had never belonged there. I expected her to disappear. Instead, she did something far more predictable. She went to Mark. He was, at that point, sitting in a lawyer's office trying to figure out how to avoid prison time. When she showed up demanding answers, demanding money, demanding some kind of rescue, he made his final mistake. He told her the truth. That she was nothing to him. That he'd used her. That she was just a symptom of his larger problems, not the cause. She recorded the entire conversation. And then she sold the recording to a gossip blog for $50,000. The headline was, CEO of NYC hospital admits to affair, embezzlement, and callous betrayal of young woman. It was exactly the ammunition Mark needed to start trying to reframe the story, to make himself the victim, to suggest that I was the one who'd pushed him into this. It was also exactly what I needed, because it proved that everyone involved in this betrayal was willing to destroy others to save themselves. The divorce was finalized in 6 months. I received 100% custody of our 2 children, the house, the investments, everything. Mark received a criminal conviction and a 5-year federal prison sentence. Tiffany ended up being charged with receiving stolen property when investigators traced the condo purchase and the luxury goods back to the embezzled funds. By the time all the legal proceedings were done, she'd lost her internship, her apartment, and most of her ability to maintain the social media presence that had defined her. The hospital survived because I made sure it did. I appointed a new CEO, someone with actual medical experience and a proven track record of ethical leadership. I restructured the board to prevent the kind of nepotistic hiring that had allowed Tiffany to be placed there in the first place. I implemented new financial oversight protocols that would make what Mark did impossible to hide. And I did something else. I started visiting the hospital every single day. Not as a figurehead, as the chairwoman, as the person who had earned the right to make decisions about this place because I understood what it meant. A year after Mark's conviction, I was walking through the hospital lobby when I saw him. He was being escorted to a holding cell to begin his sentence. The prisoner transport officers didn't recognize who I was. They just saw a woman in a navy suit and moved out of her way. Mark saw me, and our eyes met for a moment. I didn't look away. I didn't show any emotion. I just let him see that I'd won, that I was fine, and that his attempt to destroy me had failed completely. He looked away first. That night, I sat in my office and thought about what could have been different. If I'd confronted him immediately. If I'd allowed emotion to guide my decisions. If I'd sought revenge instead of justice. I might have won the battle and lost the war. Instead, I'd waited. I'd gathered evidence. I'd let him make his own mistakes. And by the time I acted, the outcome was inevitable. The best revenge, I learned, isn't destruction. It's becoming someone so solid, so capable, so integral to everything that matters that the people who tried to betray you become irrelevant. My father had built a hospital. I built a legacy. And that was worth more than any victory over Mark Thompson could ever be.